What is going on, everybody? Gamster here, coming at you for a Dragonball Super Episode 83 discussion video. Sorry for the late update at first. I just got done watching it. It was an amazing, funny episode. We leave off where Goku and the rest of the squad come back to Earth with the news about the power tournament. They have 40 hours, or should I say 80 hours on the dot to make sure that they are ready for the tournament. And it is showing that as well. Beerus is like sees food as well as Goku. Chi-Chi's getting ready for Bulma to have her daughter, and she sees Goku. She says perfect timing. She says I prepared all this food for the feast for Bulma since her baby's not really here yet. So he's like, okay. He says what's going on. So he basically then shows Bulma doing a type of workout with Emperor Pilaf and his little goon squad, and basically Bulma's doing aerobics on a ball, and Vegeta's watching, and she says, sorry Vegeta for taking it away from you. He says, well, I don't. He says, just hurry up and have the baby already. He's just kind of going, and then Trunks is like, Dad, why are you still here? And then he's like, shouldn't you want to train? He says, well, your mother's using it. He says, well, why are you doing it? You sure you don't want to miss the baby being born? He says, I don't care about that. He says, I care about training. I'm going to go train somewhere else. And Trunks is like, I want to go too. Goten's right with him. He says, yeah, I want to go too. And he's like, no, you're not. He says, well, why not? And then Vegeta's like, Trunks, didn't your mom tell you to go fix the baby's room? He says, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Goten, give me a hand. So Goten goes with him. And Goku, as well as Beerus, Supreme Kai, and Whis, they're all talking about the power tournament, who they're going to recruit. And Beerus is like, I don't care, as long as we get strong fighters within a limited time, I don't care. And then Gohan looks at Supreme Kai. He says, is there any way we can get fighters from other universes that may be able to help? And he says, well, there's not much time due to the fact of there's really no one we can really ask, since all the power, we don't go by power levels. And Beerus is like, yeah, and whose fault is that? That's on you for not doing your job. And then he just keeps eating. And Elder Kai's like, well, struggling is pointless. He goes, well, we still need to find 10 fighters ahead of time. And Gohan's like, well, Dad, you got me as well as yourself and Vegeta. He says, that's 3 right there. He says, who else? And then they start talking about Krillin, and they were doing image training in their mind about Krillin going up against one of the Wolf Brothers, of course. And Gohan thought Krillin would have a chance, but Goku tells Gohan that Krillin has been training again. He is developed a lot of new attacks and techniques, so he said he'll be fine. And then even Hercule's like, well, he's not martial arts anymore. And he's like, well, yeah, he is. He started training again. And then he's like, well, what about other ones? And then he's like, well, what about Master Roshi? He has a lot of experience under his belt. And he's like, yeah, that'd be good right there. He says, okay, then that's 5. And then Supreme Kai as well as Hercule go, well, what about Trunks and Goten? They're capable fighters. They'll be able to do it. And Goku's like, no, they're too inexperienced. This is not about power. This is about capability, and you can't kill your opponent. And then he's like, they're too not experienced. And then he goes, what about 18? And he says, yeah. And then Gohan's like, we should get 17 too. And they're like, well, aren't they androids? And he's like, no, they're just superhuman now ever since they got wished by the Dragon Balls. And Beerus is like, I don't care. He says, I pretend I did not hear that. He says, as long as we get capable fighters, that's all I care about. He says, so that's 7. He says, what about 8? So then they talked about getting, of course, Boo, I believe they said that would be 8. And then they also discussed about getting Piccolo as well to help. And then the last one they were not sure about, so they're like, we got to get one more fighter. And then they're like, okay, well, let's discuss that. And then Vegeta comes around, and you see Goku looking at Vegeta. He says, hey, we got good news. We're going to be fighting a tournament, and we want you to come. And we got 80 guys we're going up against. And Vegeta's like, that's interesting. So it's a battle royale. And he's like, yeah, it is. And then he's like, I fought this guy Topo from Universe 11. He says there's a lot of big universes, a lot of strong guys, a lot of strong gods. And he says, I could barely beat him in blue form. He says, blue form? He says, you got to be crazy. He says, yeah. And Vegeta's like, I can't go. He says, you can count me out. He says, well, why? He says, I don't know when my child's going to be born. He says, until then, he says, I'm not budging. And even Beerus yells out, he goes, I'm giving you an order. You're doing it. And then he looks at Beerus as well as Whis. He says, unless you can convince Bulma, I'm not budging. So he basically still being loyal to Bulma. He's still wanting to be there for the birth of his daughter. And Whis is like, very well. So Whis is walking into the room where Chi-Chi and Bulma are, and Chi-Chi's telling Bulma, you need to relax, you need to be there. And then she sees Whis, and Whis is like, hey, and he's like, well, she says, what are you doing? And he basically puts his staff next to her stomach, and he does a power where he has her birth come very early, and it wraps Bulla into a blanket. So now she is born. Bulma and Vegeta's child is now born. She's like, well, she says, dang, she says, I should have asked you to come sooner. She says, maybe I can use you for next time. And then you see Vegeta looking, he sees the birth of his daughter, and you see Goku and Gohan, as well as Hercule watching, and as soon as Hercule hears that, he says, yeah, there's an Earth to protect, and Vegeta just looks at him, and Gohan covers his mouth like, shut up, and he's just looking at him like, dude, what's going on with you? Don't do that crap. And they're just like, congratulations, congratulations, like, Vegeta, look at your daughter, and they're all just outside talking, and you see everyone wanting to hold Vegeta and Bulma's daughter, from Bulma's parents to Goku to Gohan, and Gohan says, I'm gonna go tell Trunks and Goten, and he says, okay. So he goes and tells Trunks, and Trunks is telling Goten where to put the baby crib, and he's like, I don't know where. He says, who cares where it goes? And he says, hey Trunks, he says, the baby was born. He says, you kidding me? Do you know if it's a boy or a girl? He says, I didn't ask that question. And then Goten's like, that's not good. He says, yeah, I know. And he says, well, what if it's a boy? He says, you can train your little brother. He says, yeah, it'd be fun. He says, well, if it's sister, he says, I prefer training. So that was pretty funny as well to hear Trunks say that he would just want to train other than have a sister. And he goes out, and Gohan's with him, and Gohan was kind of acting like Goku the way he was talking to the kids, so that really got to be really funny, the way he's always been like Goku when it comes around kids and other females. It's really funny to have that sense, because you get to really tell that Gohan is now becoming more like his father now than he used to be, so that's a really good thing to see. And now you are seeing also where Vegeta is seeing everyone hold his daughter. He sees Hercule carry his daughter, and she cries. It pisses Vegeta off. He goes Super Saiyan Blue instantly, and he's trying to hold in his anger because he has not hold his daughter. He's literally, in this episode, the last one to hold his own daughter, because he doesn't want to show that weakness. He doesn't want to show that soft side of himself, because he never did that to anyone. And when Trunks comes, Bulma tells him to come meet your sister. He says, she says, you want to hold her? He says, no, I'm good, I prefer training. And then next thing she's like, come on, you'll be alright. So she hands him over to her, hands her over to him, and he looks at Bulma, and he's like, well, he says, she's a lot heavier than I thought. She says, yeah, she says, it's going to be your job as a big brother to protect her. He says, I'm counting on you. And then she's looking at Vegeta, and Vegeta's not doing anything, and she tells Trunks to go over there and let Vegeta hold their daughter. And she's looking at him, and Trunks says, Dad, Mom says for you to hold her. He says, no. And he says, and he just looks at him, and he's looking at Trunks and his daughter, and he's just like, Trunks, you're holding her wrong. So he just grabs her real quick. He says, wow, Dad, you know a lot. And before that, you see Yamcha come in. Yamcha's acting like a doofus, and he's getting even more pissed off, because the main times Vegeta got pissed off is when Yamcha hold her, of course, and then, of course, when Satan hold her, and that was really, really funny to see him be angry at both of them, because he obviously, as a newly father with another child, he's going to be extremely protective as well. He does not care for Satan or Yamcha, which is totally understandable. And then you see where Goku is looking at Vegeta holding his daughter, and then you see Gohan looking, and then you see Bulma saying, we're going to name her Bulla, and Vegeta's like, no, we need to name her with a good Saiyan name. He starts calling her Bulla. He says, well, I guess it's not that bad of a name. And then you see Goku look at Gohan, and Gohan just looks at Goku saying, I guess we have another life to fight for, huh? And he says, yeah, we do. He says, we're going to have another he said, we're definitely going to win that power tournament. And then he's like, well, I'm going to go get sensu beans. And this is earlier in the episode. And we told him, no, if you do that, he says, that's going to improve your stamina, correct? He says, no. He says, if you do that, then that's cheating. And then you see Beerus going to take them in secret, let nobody know. He says, well, Beerus, if that happens, then everything went together. He says, fine. So there was a lot of comic relief in this episode, nevertheless, and at the end it shows where Goku is going to go talk to 18 as well as Krillin to recruit them for the power tournament, and that's how it ends, to gather all the fighters in time. And also, when Goku leaves, you see Gohan talking about him and then Yamcha keens in. He hears about the tournament. He wants to enter, and he wants to make some dramatic possession, like a little punk or something. I don't really care for Yamcha too much, but it was just like real corny. But nevertheless, guys, that's how it ends. And then it goes into the next episode where Goku is showing to talk to Krillin as well as 18 about the power tournament. It even shows Gohan training with Krillin, because Krillin has improved massively. And then it finally shows Goku going up against Krillin in God form. So we're going to have a fight against Gohan versus Krillin as well as Goku versus Krillin. So it's going to be an amazing episode nevertheless, guys. I enjoyed this episode. There was a lot of comic relief. It was extremely funny. It was very family oriented for this episode. It was a lot of fun, and just to greatly see how everyone's going to go. Now, obviously, I don't think they're going to tell anyone about the power tournament just yet. They're going to keep it a secret as long as possible, so that way people do not overreact and don't get their head messed up before that they go to the power tournament. So anyway, guys, that is my review over episode 83 of Dragon Ball Super. So I hope nevertheless you enjoyed. Smash that like button as well as subscribe to the channel below, and comment down below what you think about this episode as well as all my descriptions and the channel down below. As normal, hope you guys have a good night or day. See you later.